This is the moment that almost destroyed him. The moment when Michael Jordan, the kid everyone thought wasn't good enough, had to decide if he would let rejection break him or turn him into a legend. Michael Jordan wasn't supposed to be the greatest player of all time. At least, that's what the world told him. He was the skinny kid who didn't make the varsity team. The one who cried in his room for hours because the coach said he wasn't tall enough, wasn't strong enough, wasn't ready. That rejection didn't just sting, it cracked something inside him. Physically, it reminded him he wasn't built like everyone else. Emotionally, it humiliated him. Psychologically, it whispered a cruel lie. Maybe you're not good enough. But instead of sinking, he made a decision that changed sports forever. He stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What now?" He began waking up earlier, training harder, pushing further, outworking everyone in ways nobody else could see. While others slept, he was sweating. While others relaxed, he was sharpening his craft. Every missed shot became fuel. Every doubt became fire. Every little weakness became a target for improvement. He didn't magically become great. He built greatness with blistered hands, burning lungs, and a heart that refused to surrender. The kid who didn't make the team became the player nobody could stop, not because he was gifted, but because he was relentless. But greatness doesn't remove pain. It only teaches you how to fight through it. His climb to the top wasn't smooth. In college, he battled loneliness, pressure, fear of failing again. His confidence shook every time he missed a shot. His mind replayed every rejection he'd faced. But each time doubt tried to pull him back, he leaned deeper into the work, the practice, the grind. And years later, when he hit that championship-winning shot in college, the world finally saw the version of Michael Jordan he had been building in the dark. But even then, the world had no idea what he was still carrying inside. The hunger, the fear, the memory of the boy who didn't make the team. He wasn't done growing. He was just getting started. By the time he reached the NBA, he wasn't playing basketball anymore. He was chasing something deeper, something personal. Every game was a battle with himself, against fear, against pressure, against the part of him that once believed he wasn't enough. But then came the moment that even greatness couldn't protect him from. The day the phone rang at 3:27 a.m. The day his world went silent. His father, James Jordan, the man who believed in him when nobody else did, had disappeared. At first he tried to stay calm, tried to rationalize it, but a cold dread sat in his chest. His father never went missing. Days passed with no word. Michael didn't train, didn't laugh, didn't play. He sat in silence, waiting for a call he wasn't ready to receive. And then it came. His father's car was found, abandoned, hidden, damaged. And soon after, the truth he feared became the reality he couldn't escape. His father had been murdered. The world saw championships, highlights, trophies, but behind it all was a son who had just lost his anchor. The pain was deeper than anything he had ever faced. He didn't break down in public. He didn't scream. He didn't show the world the storm inside him. But behind closed doors, he shattered. Basketball didn't matter anymore. Fame didn't matter. Nothing mattered. And in the prime of his career, at the height of his greatness, he walked away from the game. The greatest player alive retired at 30 years old. Not because he was tired of winning, but because his heart couldn't carry the weight anymore. The world mocked him for stepping onto a baseball field, called him foolish, said he was running from pressure. But Michael didn't care. Baseball wasn't about glory. It was about his father. It was the sport his dad wanted him to play, the dream they once shared. And even though he struggled, striking out, riding buses, grinding in the minor leagues, baseball was healing him slowly. He wasn't Michael Jordan, the icon. He was just Mike, trying to find peace again. But grief doesn't disappear quietly. And one day, during a minor league game, a kid in the stands shouted, "Mike, when are you coming back?" Jordan looked up, and something inside him stirred. Something he thought he had buried. Hunger. Not for fame, not for applause, but for purpose. For the fire his father had lit in him long before he ever became a champion. He realized running wasn't healing him. Hiding wasn't helping him. His father wouldn't have wanted him to disappear. He would have wanted him to rise. And standing in that dugout, holding a baseball bat, Jordan finally admitted the truth to himself. He wasn't done. His story wasn't over. The fire wasn't dead. It was waiting. He picked up a basketball for the first time in a year. The leather felt familiar, heavy, powerful, like holding a piece of his old self again. And in a quiet locker room, he whispered two simple words that sent a shockwave through the world. "I'm back." But the world he returned to wasn't the world he left. The Bulls were different. The league was tougher. And waiting for him wasn't just opponents. It was doubt, fear, rust, expectations. The pressure to be the old Michael Jordan the moment he stepped back onto the court. And the question that would define everything that came next wasn't whether the world still believed in him. It was whether he still believed in himself. And that is where the real battle begins. When Michael Jordan returned to basketball, the world expected Air Jordan. What they got was a man fighting his own shadow. When Jordan stepped back into the NBA, the cheers were deafening, but inside, he felt a quiet fear he had never known before. The game was faster, stronger. The league had evolved while he was gone. Players weren't scared of him anymore. They wanted to conquer the myth. And Jordan felt something he wasn't used to feeling. Rust. His legs were heavier, his timing off, his instincts a half-second slow. People cheered because they remembered the legend, but on the court, he felt like a stranger in his own kingdom. His first games back weren't pretty. He missed shots he used to make in his sleep, got blocked by players who once idolized him, lost games he should have dominated. Analysts said he was finished. Fans whispered maybe he should have stayed retired, and each night, when the lights went out and the arena emptied, he was left alone with a brutal realization. Greatness doesn't pause for you. You have to rebuild it, brick by brick, breath by breath, step by step. So that's what he did. Michael Jordan didn't try to become the player he was. He tried to become better. He studied film long after midnight, rebuilt his footwork, reconditioned his body, sharpened his mind. He wasn't just fighting opponents. He was fighting grief, doubt, fear, age, and the ghost of the version of himself the world worshipped. But the pressure didn't break him. It refined him. Pressure has two outcomes. It destroys the weak or exposes the unstoppable. Jordan chose the second. When the playoffs arrived, something shifted in him. The fire returned. The instinct sharpened. The killer within, the one forged from rejection, built from discipline, and strengthened by loss, woke up. His comeback wasn't perfect, but it was powerful. And though the Bulls fell short that season, Jordan wasn't discouraged. He was hungry, desperate, dangerous. Because now he had clarity, purpose, a mission that ran deeper than rings and trophies. He realized he wasn't chasing the same dream anymore. He was honoring something bigger. He was honoring his father. And anything attached to that purpose could not be stopped. So Jordan disappeared again, but this time into the work. He trained every day that off-season like a man possessed. He transformed his body, his mentality, and his leadership. He wasn't just returning for one more season. He was returning to build an empire. When the next season began, the league wasn't ready for the version of Michael Jordan that stepped onto the floor. This wasn't Air Jordan from the 80s. This wasn't the young, high-flying kid. This was a disciplined, ruthless, colder, smarter predator. He controlled games like a conductor directing an orchestra. Every movement purposeful. Every decision calculated. Every minute a lesson in mastery. He didn't need to be faster. He became more efficient. He didn't need to jump higher. He became more precise. He didn't need to prove anything. He became undeniable. Suddenly, the Bulls weren't just contenders. They were unstoppable. They became a force built on chemistry, discipline, trust, and Jordan's relentless standard of excellence. And with Scottie Pippen by his side, his brother in battle, Jordan led the Bulls to the greatest season in NBA history, 72 wins and a championship. But that championship was different. When the final buzzer sounded, Jordan didn't roar. He didn't beat his chest. He didn't show off for the cameras. He fell to the floor, clutching the basketball, crying. Not because he won, but because he finally felt like he had kept his promise to his father. Every pain, every doubt, every sleepless night, every whisper that he was finished, it all melted away the moment he held that trophy again. He didn't return for fame. He returned to heal. And winning was the final stitch that closed the wound. But Jordan wasn't done. Greatness isn't a moment. It's a mindset, a standard, a responsibility. Over the next years, he built the second three-peat, an achievement the league still struggles to understand. But the real story wasn't the rings. It was the transformation. He went from a young showman to a disciplined architect, from a superstar to a leader, from a grieving son to a living legacy. And still, even after conquering the world twice, he carried one truth with him everywhere he went. Rejection didn't kill him. It created him. What made Michael Jordan isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't height or strength or athletic gifts. It's the decision he made when everything tried to break him. The decision to rise, to rebuild, to rewrite the ending. He didn't become great because life was easy. He became great because life was hard, because pain shaped him, loss refined him, doubt fueled him, work defined him, and purpose pulled him out of every dark moment he faced. His story reminds us that greatness is not the absence of struggle, it is the triumph over it. The courage to keep going when everything in you says stop, the refusal to give up when life tries to bury you. That is what made him, and that is what can make you. But even after rewriting history, even after reclaiming his throne, even after proving every critic wrong, there was still one final part of Jordan's journey that the world didn't see coming, one final challenge that would push him to the edge one more time. Because even legends face battles no camera ever captures, and Michael Jordan's last great test was about to begin. Michael Jordan stood in the tunnel of the United Center, listening to the roar of a crowd that had grown up with him. Some cheering the champion he had already become, others simply grateful to witness a man who had refused to surrender when the world told him he wasn't enough. But inside, he wasn't thinking about fame. He wasn't thinking about trophies. He wasn't thinking about the statue outside or the banners hanging above. He was thinking about the kid who didn't make the varsity team, the son who lost his father, the athlete who walked away from basketball because pain was louder than passion. And he was thinking about every person who had ever looked at themselves and whispered, "Maybe I'm not built for this." He remembered every long night in the gym after a loss when reporters said he was too selfish. He remembered the days he pushed his body past exhaustion, playing through migraines, playing through sickness, playing through grief. He remembered the fights with doubt, the voice in his head that said, "You can stop, no one would blame you." He remembered collapsing on the locker room floor after the flu game, trembling, barely able to breathe, wondering how a human being was supposed to carry so much weight when all he wanted was rest. And he remembered rising anyway. Jordan built his legacy not through perfection, but through struggle. People saw the highlights, but not the hours he shot jumpers alone in empty gyms. They saw trophies, but not the nights he stayed awake fighting sorrow. They saw greatness, but not the cost. They saw the legend, but not the man who had to keep choosing to stand, even when his spirit wanted to fall. Every championship run came with wounds. Every comeback came with fear. Every dominant performance came after moments of weakness he never allowed the world to see. When he finally returned from baseball, critics laughed. They said he was slower, softer. They said the Bulls were done. They said the dynasty was over. And he heard it all. He felt every word. He felt the sting of doubt, the pressure of expectation, the whispers comparing him to younger, fresher players hungry to take his place. People assumed he was built of something stronger than ordinary humans, but he wasn't. He was human. He just refused to quit. There was a night during the second three-peat that he sat alone in the locker room, staring at his shoes, sweat dripping down his face, hands shaking after playing through another game most people would have begged out of. A trainer asked him, "How do you keep going?" Jordan didn't answer immediately. He just breathed. Slow, heavy, controlled. Then he said, "Because somewhere, someone already gave up today, and I won't be that person." That was his engine. That was his fuel. Not glory, not applause, not money, but the refusal to let the world decide the limits of his life. Jordan's success was never about talent alone. Talent opened the door, but pain, persistence, and the willingness to stay standing when everything inside him wanted to collapse. That's what made him unstoppable. He wasn't chasing perfection, he was chasing possibility. He believed the human spirit could stretch further than fear told us. And every time he won, he proved it. When he lifted his final championship trophy, he didn't smile because of victory. He smiled because he knew he had survived everything designed to break him. The failures, the losses, the heartbreak, the doubt, the exhaustion, the expectations of millions. And he didn't just carry them, he transformed them into purpose, into passion, into greatness that reshaped the very meaning of what an athlete could be. And now, his story lives on not as a tale of a perfect man, but as a reminder that even the strongest among us were once uncertain. Even the greatest once wondered if they were enough. Even the legends cried behind closed doors, questioning their path, questioning their worth, questioning whether they could keep moving. Michael Jordan teaches one truth. You do not need to be unbreakable. You only need to refuse to stay broken. If you're tired right now, his story is for you. If you feel behind, his story is for you. If you feel rejected, his story is for you. If you feel like your dreams are too far away, his story is for you. You don't win by never falling. You win by rising one more time than you collapse. You win by taking the hit and choosing to walk forward anyway. You win by refusing to let life convince you that you're finished. Jordan became a symbol, not because he was born different, but because he kept fighting long after others would have surrendered. He turned his pain into a path. He turned heartbreak into hunger. He turned loss into fuel. And that is something every person, strong or weak, confident or afraid, can choose. Not to be better than him, but to be better than the version of themselves that keeps whispering, "Stop." So if you're listening to this and you feel like life is bigger than you, remember this. Even the greatest of all time once felt the same way. And he overcame it. You can too. Stand up. Try again. Begin again. Fail again if you must, but never stop. Because weakness is not the end. Vulnerability is not defeat. And your struggle does not disqualify you. It prepares you. Michael Jordan's story isn't about basketball. It's about becoming. It's about refusing to stay small. It's about rising so many times that one day, even you won't recognize the version of yourself that almost gave up. This is your moment. Not to be Jordan, but to be the you that never quits.